So this fancy girl here and I, Miss Sarah, we are going to make some bread, and we're going to show you how we make our 100% whole wheat sprouted grain bread. I love my Nutri-Mill grinder. I've had it, probably 2 years now. I really like it. It works really well for us. I'll put a link to that in the description below. The recipe that I'm going to show you today is something that I've completely made up in my own brain. So I've adapted different recipes. There was a wonderful whole wheat recipe that I found that was great, but when I switched to sprouted grains, I had to do some more adjusting. So I will probably do a vlog on just the 100% whole wheat sprouted soon. But one thing that in my bread journey that I wanted was to make a simple whole wheat bread that doesn't require enhancers, gluten, extra gluten, and all that stuff. So this whole wheat sprouted whole wheat recipe calls for like 4 or 5 ingredients: water, salt, flour, oil, and honey and yeast. So 6. That's it. Due to some food allergies, I don't get to eat the bread, but everybody that I've fed it to say it's fantastic. So what I'm doing right now is I'm mixing the grains together. I do a mix of red and white wheat, and in the mixer, in the grinder, it separates the parts of the wheat berries, and so I like to mix them all back in together, so I'm getting the complete wheat berry when I put it in with my stuff. So I ahead of time have mixed together my yeast, my water, and my honey. I have found that if I make the honey in with the yeast, it just makes the yeast grow a lot better. And also with your whole grains, once you grind them, they very, very rapidly start losing nutritional value. So the best way to do flour is if you fresh grind it yourself and store it in the freezer with any extras. Be careful with any extras because it loses its nutritional value very, very quickly. So I am going to put the recipe to this bread at the end of the video. It will be there for you guys to utilize. But it's 1.5 cups of water to a scoop of honey, and I don't really measure it, but I'll get the measurements for you. But a scoop of honey, 1.5 cups-ish of warm water, and 1.5 teaspoons of yeast. We're going to put in 1.5 teaspoons of salt. My assistant is going to do that for me. Come on, pour it in.
Mama, it tastes sweet. Mama, put it in.
Good job. So we do 1/2 of a third a cup of oil. I know I have the tablespoons written down as to exactly what that is, but for me it's easier just to use the cup. Same with the honey. It's 1/2 of a third a cup of honey, but for me it's easier just to scoop it out and just guess on the honey. We use avocado oil, 100% pure avocado oil. You can use any oil you want, but I find this to be wonderful. And it's good for you. So if you're going to make good for you bread, then use good for you oil. Okay, now we're going to get our wheat put in. So it's going to vary. It's going to vary how much wheat you use. Okay, put it in.
Can I do the next one by myself?
I put in about 5 cups of flour, and then I just kind of feel the dough and see what it needs. So I'm not real meticulous about measuring the flour out because I know about how much I grind. I do, like I said, I'll leave all the information, but I do 1.5 cups of red berries to, was it 2.5 cups of white berries. And that is the ratio I have found. I have played with all kinds of different ratios to get not a piece of brick bread, and you know, too much white, my bread would fall apart. So trial and error, and I got to the ratios that I have now. So while this beautiful dough is mixing up, I did want to mention the reason why sprout your wheat. Why is that better? It pre-digests it before you even eat it. It makes it more like a vegetable to your body than a grain, and so it's a lot more recognizable to your body as a sprouted grain. It unlocks nutrients. It is so much better for you. If you're gonna eat wheat, should be sprouted. People think 100% whole wheat is better for you. It actually is a lot harder for you to digest, harder for you to process. So like I said, unless it's sprouted, you really shouldn't be eating wheat. Okay, so this is way too sticky, as you can see. So I am going to add another 1/2 cup. Oh, okay. And hopefully it won't be too dry. I guess if it is, add a little more liquid. It is looking about right. You want it to not be super sticky to the sides of the pan, the mixing bowl, and you don't want it to dry. So it's kind of hard to tell you through a vlog. You kind of just have to touch it, just kind of have to feel it. So that's about right. It's maybe a little more sticky than normal. Every time I make this, it's just a little different. I am not necessarily a baker.
Can I have this?
Sure. I'm not necessarily a baker, but I'm learning and I'm trying. So I think I'll add just a tiny bit more flour to it, and then I'm going to let it mix for about 20 minutes. You want to allow, with wheat bread, you want to allow it to mix really well to help the glutens come together naturally in the bread so it stays together.
Oh, you need it.
Is it yummy? Gross.
It doesn't taste bad.
Just the thought of eating dough does not set well with me.
It doesn't taste bad though.
Here, you add us a little more.
That's really sticky. Like that much?
Yeah. Okay, so I just want to stop it real quick and show you. That's better. So it's still sticky on the inside, but yet, so it's still got a nice moisture content to it. You can feel it, but it's just not quite as gooey as it was before. So we're going to let that go ahead and knead. I'm going to set a timer and we'll come back to it in a few minutes. Okay, so it is done. We're going to open it up, get it off the hook. So we just pull it off and...
Mama, I really smell dough.
You smell dough?
Turn that one over there.
Hold that.
Okay.
It's just dough.
This KitchenAid has problems. Okay, so now we're going to get our handy dandy rag out of the dough. And we're going to cover it up. It's not very warm these days here in Idaho. So what I like to do is come put it over here on the counter that the dishwasher has been running recently, so it's a little bit warmer. One tip I like to do is either a seedling mat or a just a heat mat underneath it, and I use that in the winter months when I don't want to wait all day for bread. And it's already 5 o'clock at night, so if I don't get this sped up, we might be midnight cooking bread. So I might find our little heat mat. Meanwhile, on the homestead, we had to go save our straw and hay. We picked a bad day to get new hay today. Whew. It's beautiful and it's ready. I have my 2 cast iron bread pans. I love them, Lodge brand. I will also I'll link all these products in the description. It is an Amazon link, so if you want to check any of them out. But I love my cast iron. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this turned out onto the counter. I just kind of move my finger to the side and just kind of use it as a spatula. Make sure your counter's clean. And I turn it out.
Same with your hands.
Yep. Clean hands, clean counters. Emma, quit eating the dough.
There's nothing on my hand.
Okay.
Can I have some? Can I have a
You
piece?
can't have any more dough. You didn't eat your dinner.
No, I want a piece to do the same thing when you were
Okay,
doing.
so then I cut it in half.
And I get the other.
And just a minute, guys. Just a minute. Excuse me, Sarah.
I need a
I like to use this really cool
Where?
kitchen scale to test my dough sizes, just to make sure they're close to the same amount. I mean, I don't make it perfect, but I like it to be close. Okay, that's close enough.
Okay, on the
So Missy wants to play with one.
I want to play with one.
No, it's too late. So I've tried different shaping methods on my bread. I used to always have a problem. The very, very top of the bread would always fall apart. Like I just had a huge hole in the top of the bread, or it would fall apart. I've had a lot of problems. And I've done a lot of different techniques. I don't know if this is the exact best technique, but it has worked, so I'm going with it. So I just roll it, kind of like you're playing with Play-Doh. And I just make sure, and I put the seam, I make sure it's pinched over, and I just, just roll it. So I know that if you rise it too quickly, so if you put it in the oven to rise to proof, it can give you a big bubble on the crust because it has risen too fast. I don't know if I was just getting too much air inside, why it would do that. I'm just not really sure. So I just roll it like that. Kind of tuck in the sides and put it
So
in.
it's like you're putting like a child into bed.
There you go. So then I go ahead and do the same thing. Okay, so then I just roll that again. Just make sure to pinch the tops with my finger as I go. So I just try to get as uniform as a shape as I can.
Then tuck
Then I get it in.
Then tuck the baby in the bed, and then shove them in the oven.
So now we let it rise. Now we let it go for the second rise. I could not find my heat mat, so we're going the old-fashioned way tonight. I'm going to put it back on the counter where it was a little bit warm from the dishwasher. It's probably not warm anymore, but it's going to be warmer than right here. So we're going to let that rise, and we'll check back in, and we'll take care of this cranky dog. So in a home with 4 children and 2 adults, there's always dishes. So I went ahead and started another load of dishes to help speed up the warmth for the bread rising. Hopefully it works. It's getting late. fresh bread right out of the oven. What's the first thing you want to do? First thing you are going to want to do, I know because I want to, is cut it open and enjoy a slice of hot, fresh bread. That is the one thing you cannot do with sprouted wheat. You have to wait 15 minutes before you cut into the bread. The inside is very unstable and is very, very gooey. So if you were to cut it into it now, and if I was willing to sacrifice a loaf, I would do it to show you, but I'm not tonight. So you have to wait 15 minutes to make sure it's cool and let the structure set up a little bit better. So I go ahead and turn them out onto the cooling rack. I know the popular thing to do is put butter over the top of the bread, and I love that too. It makes the crust really nice. I don't do that because I like to let them cool with a towel over the top. That's how my mom always used to do it, so of course that's how I do it, right? And if I was to butter the top, it would get all over the towel. I have turned it to the side, and so that way it doesn't get the butter on there. However, with the sprouted wheat, like I said, it's a whole different animal to work with. So I have found that if I do this, the sides will kind of cave in and I'll have a very misshapen loaf. So I have found that it is just better to just leave it the way it is. And my kids say it makes the crust almost kind of mushy when I use the butter on top. So the sprouted wheat is completely different to work with. It's just hard to even explain until you try it. So if you have any questions, give me an email, comment down below. I'd love to help you. I don't come from a baking background, so if I can make this bread, anybody can make this bread. I tell you that. And I have a really, really easy 100% whole wheat recipe that I will share soon. So if you are making whole wheat, like I said, I sprouted is much better for you, but I will share a video on that soon on the 100% whole wheat recipe that I kind of used to adapt into this recipe. So look forward to that. But I hope you enjoy this. I hope that this can work for your family. It's super easy to do. I sprout my own wheat berries, and I have an old video on that that we will put on the end screen to this video. It's one of our early videos. But if you have any questions on that, let me know. I'll review it, and if it's something I need to update information on like this one, I will give you an updated vlog. But thanks for coming along today with us on this crazy adventure that we like to call homesteading. Please share, like, comment, and subscribe, and hopefully you'll join us tomorrow.